Well, out here trying to spend some time with the GTP. Um, this car, I just always like these cars, and um, granted, they're not the hot rod stuff that I'm used to, but um, I just, I've had the car for a long time. I don't know how many videos I posted on it. Probably not many. I just kind of to that point where I'm doing the things that I do and get it done so I can have some seat time with it because I think it's going to be a pretty fun car, even with stock cam. Um, but basically, getting a little nervous. I'm trying to wrap up a few loose ends for outside on the house and such. Come Monday morning, I got to apparently have prostate cancer, and I do okay with that, mentally now. But it is what it is. But 6 months ago wasn't the case, so I figured as much as I can get done with this. I don't know how I'm going to feel. Probably going to be questionable at times, but I wanted to maybe get this thing done and figured I'd maybe do a short video on it. But a lot of go back into the car, basically a mod that I do on these cars, and it doesn't matter if it's naturally aspirated or supercharged. These cars have an pre-cat O2 sensor, which does nothing for you other than trip the freaking engine light. This is what they call a little module that plugs in, and basically it's typically an LS based kind of thing, but due to the EPA and stuff that they do now, you can't really find these too often. And when you do, they're pretty expensive. But I found this one several years back and been saving it for this car. Another mod that I do is I keep because typically if it's a stock cam, these manifolds flow enough air to suffice the engine. The front manifolds are questionable due to the fact that it's cast iron. You can try to port them, but the problem is the material isn't there for you to do the mod. So you'd have to weld it up, which I've done before and ported them as such. But the problem is the cost and the amount of modification and hours involved to do that. It doesn't really seem worth it, especially for a customer. So what I typically do is I'll retain the stock down tube. The stock down tube, everybody advertises it as 30-inch, and it's kind of a deceiving thing. The outside is 30-inch, but the problem is there's an insulator in that down tube, so the heat doesn't go into your firewall. So the ID of it ends up being 2.25 to 2.5, such somewhere in that area. But if you do some modification to the crossover tube, it doesn't really restrict a whole lot, especially like I said with stock camshaft. But the mod is I'll buy a 3-inch piece of stainless off eBay and do the mod on that, and essentially just basically weld it to your down tube. Take care, of all your isolator or the exhaust resonator. Excuse me, that resonator. Basically, all it is a fucking another muffler, a seamed muffler at that. Then all the seams fail, aren't rusted, and it rusts and it just falls off. So also you have a U-bend in there, which I've been trying like hell to try to figure out what the thinking is there, but what you do is straight 3-inch stainless piece. I got all the joints welded up and then rust treated, and then I'll do the exhaust wrap to kind of help seal that in a sense. And people say, well, this stuff is shit because it rusts behind it from condensation, but this is wide open enough to where that's really not an issue. It's just a preventative action on this joint here and this joint up there. But yeah, tonight just got done doing. I finally got I wasn't gonna do it, but did the Transgo shift kit, which the springs that are involved, that are with it. It's quite a big difference. So Another mod that I did is this, basically this tube here that you have that's got a flex line, piece of line on it. That's basically the diff lube. Excuse me, or the differential lube, which as you can see here goes up to there. And then this whole case is your differential clutches and gearing. So apparently it's a big issue with these things that falls out. So the thought process here is you have a hard line here, so you just piggyback off that, clamp it down, and then supposedly that doesn't slip out. But I just did the spring kit on the accumulator, and I kind of wished I would have did a little bit more, but the informational videos, they're all over the place on YouTube, so I felt it really wasn't. I don't want to double, triple up on what's already on there. But the biggest thing, what you need to check is when this thing's all apart, is these have a piston that goes up inside it, up and down in here, and they have an O-ring on it, and then there's a bore. The bore, or the piston, the aluminum piston doesn't touch the bore on this. It's basically the O-ring, and as long as that's not collapsed enough, but the transmission fluid doesn't allow it to collapse, in a sense, in my opinion. I'm not a transmission expert by any means, but you learn as you go. The biggest thing, and there's these pins that the accumulator pistons ride up and down on. The biggest thing is get your micrometer out and mic that pin up and down, the movement of the pin, and then also the bore that the pin goes in on the piston can wear out, apparently. All of my stuff seemed pretty well. I got on the pins, I got maybe 2/10 wear, so I figured that was pretty sufficient. So I went with it, put everything back in. Yeah, pretty confident on that. But also keep in mind, when you pull this apart on the 2-3 accumulator piston, there's an upper spring that the coil diameter is a lot bigger. That sometimes can be mixed up, I think. If it were, it doesn't matter who it is, but I think if you're not aware of it and don't remember where it came from, once you're cleaning parts, sometimes you just kind of throw them all together in the parts cleaner and then kind of forget where things go. I mean, that's human. We're human. But keep in mind that thicker top spring goes on your 2-3 shift accumulator stock. That doesn't get replaced when you're doing the kit. So now granted, when you have the kit, you have the fourth gear issues of certain fixes, but I don't really feel like pulling the side pan off. The only thing I've got to do is replace this axle seal, because this on the bearing assembly was completely seized, so I had to take this whole component and change it out just so I can get a new axle in. And by doing that, popping that new axle out, I kind of messed the seal up. So I put that seal in, clean the pan up a little bit, probably powder coat it just because I can. But yeah, just have a little fun in the shop with some W body stuff. Case in point, GTP. Those are, I think I've maybe covered it before. Those are G8 wheels with adapters. They're 1-inch adapters on the front and 1.25 inches on the rear, and it's perfect spacing in my opinion. So yeah, gonna try to wrap it up. Hopefully I'll have it back on the ground tomorrow. I'm going to I want to get the fluid in it, get it back on the ground, and I'd like to take it for a drive, see if all gears look good, feel good. The engine, I'll cover that maybe in another video, but yeah, get pretty excited about it. I still have to do a lot of body work to get it to where I want, but yeah, ended up going with I know everybody does it, but end up going, I got stock mufflers, but when you do all the mods on your exhaust up front. I mean, it sounds really good, and I don't like when you get into the RPMs of these V6s, the cackle off the rev down. I don't like it. So typically you can get away from that with the stock muffler and just do the mods, correctly, I guess, lack of a better word. Yeah, it's everybody's opinion on what's correct. So, but yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and end it with there. Thanks.